Okay. Hello,
Okay.
Ed. Good to see you.
Hi, Berna. It's good to see you too.
And hello, everyone else. Today we have a Zoom meeting with Dr. Ed Erickson about Gallipoli and about Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. He has written many books about Gallipoli and Atatürk and the Middle East, basically. He has a very impressive CV, spent his life writing many books, papers, etc. I'd like to quickly share his CV with everyone. And there we are. Here we are. I hope you can see this, everyone. Move this to this side. It's probably better. Okay. Professional summary. Dr. Ed Erickson is an independent historian and retired professor of military history from the Department of War Studies at the Marine Corps University. He is also a retired regular United States Army lieutenant colonel with multiple combat tours in the field of artillery and additional experience as a foreign area officer specializing in the Middle East. He is a recognized authority on the First World War, Middle East, Turkish military policy, has written around 15 books, many journals, articles, chapters. Some of his books are The Turkish War of Independence, Phase Line Attila, A Global History of Relocation in Counter-Insurgents Warfare, Gallipoli, Command Under Fire, it's this book here, which we have, Atamız and Armenians, and Mustafa Kemal Atatürk is this one here. Education, he has a PhD in history from the School of History, University of Leeds. History education, Colgate University, Hamilton. MA education, St. Lawrence University. BS History, Empire College, State University of New York. And then graduate U.S. Army Command and General Staff College, graduate Turkish Defense Language Institute, Monterey. He's had many professional appointments, one of them being Antalya Bilim University, and then scholar in residence, Clark Center for Global Engagement, professor of military history, Marine Corps University, professor of political science, ministerial training, dean of students and social studies, political advisor to commanding general, social studies teacher, and lieutenant colonel. His professional activities are editorial board, International Review of Turkish Studies, and other editorial boards, advisory boards, associate members, and secretary, treasurer, professional licenses, school district administrator, secondary school studies teacher, professional qualifications, United States Army Foreign Area Officer, United States Army Field Artillery Officer, and Army Qualified Linguist. He has many military awards and federal civilian awards. So he has a very impressive CV background. And now today we're going to talk about Gallipoli for the 18th of March, Remembrance Day for all those people, Turkish, Kurdish, Anzacs, British, who died in the war, the importance of the Straits, and most importantly, we're going to talk about Atatürk, his leadership, and his strategy. Hello again, welcome Ed. And now I leave it up to you. If you like, let's start with Atatürk and then continue with the rest of our questions.
Okay. Berna, thank you for that very kind introduction. And hello to all my Turkish friends and the Turkish audience. As you can tell, I am a great admirer and friend of the Republic of Turkey and its armed forces. So Mustafa Kemal, who's at Gallipoli not become Ataturk yet. What would we say about Mustafa Kemal's leadership? Is it destiny or fortunate circumstance? We historians talk about a concept: do great events make great men, or do great men make great events? And most of the time there's a little bit of both at work in any given circumstance. So Mustafa Kemal is a leader. Was he a great man who made great events, or did the great events in which he participated make him a great man? It's an interesting question, isn't it? President Zelensky, is he a great man? Or is he an ordinary man caught up in great events? These are questions we won't know for 20 years after the fact. But this is how I think about Ataturk. Winston Churchill called Mustafa Kemal a man of destiny. So was Mustafa Kemal a man of destiny, or was he just a guy who was at the right place at the right time? Well, it's truly a little bit of both. Churchill believed that he really was a man of destiny. Churchill had this vision of historical forces putting people that were destined for certain undertakings into those positions. Churchill thought he was the right man at the right time in 1940 during World War II. So this is not just Churchill thinking this. The British military historian, Brigadier General Aspinall Oglander, also used the word man of destiny to characterize Ataturk. And Aspinall Oglander wrote this about Mustafa Kemal: that man of destiny, the present ruler of Turkey, who showed on the peninsula at the head of an infantry division an outstanding genius for command. Now, Aspinall Oglander wrote that in 1932. And it's come down to us in the present as who Mustafa Kemal was. He was a man of destiny. But let me throw out another quote for you. You are familiar with General David Petraeus, a famous American general. General Petraeus said, luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Luck is the intersection where it comes together of preparation and opportunity. I think that summarizes Mustafa Kemal's leadership. He prepared himself from the time he was a young man for the role he would become as a mature man and the leader of a nation. He studied hard his whole life. He learned languages. He could read French. He could read German. He took notes on everything that he read. He read a book about the American diplomat Benjamin Franklin, and he took notes. My friend George Guarch has written a book about Ataturk, and he's quite taken with the idea that Ataturk had some lessons learned from the American philosopher Ben Franklin. So so Mustafa Kemal spent a lifetime preparing himself for war, for diplomacy, for leadership. And at the right moment, he was ready. So what about opportunity? The unusual thing about Mustafa Kemal is that before World War I, in 1913 and early 1914, Mustafa Kemal had kind of a train wreck of political interference. Mustafa Kemal wanted to be on the inside of the Young Turk organization, and Ender was not enthralled with this. So he sent Mustafa Kemal to Sofia, Bulgaria, to be the attaché in Bulgaria. So when the war started, Mustafa Kemal is not commanding Ottoman army soldiers. He's in Bulgaria as an attaché, and he misses the opening of the war. So Mustafa Kemal is not in charge of Ottoman soldiers when the war starts. It isn't until early 1915, in February 1915, where they bring him back from Sofia, and they give him command of a brand new infantry division, the famous 19th Infantry Division. So that puts him on the Gallipoli Peninsula at the right time and the right place. So circumstance and opportunity, if Mustafa Kemal had been leading soldiers in 1914, he may have been in the Caucasus, he may have been in Palestine, he may have been somewhere else. But the political mistakes and the train wreck that occurred to him with Ender before the war led him to be marginalized or outside of the power structure. And until February 1915, when opportunity knocks on Mustafa Kemal's door, and he gets sent to the Gallipoli Peninsula. So right place at the right time. The preparation that Mustafa Kemal had undertaken both in study and in practical experience. He fought in Macedonia against guerrillas. He was a guerrilla himself in Libya, fighting the Italians. He had fought in the Balkan War on the Gallipoli Peninsula, of all things. So all of these things layered one on top of another to make him the ideal leader to lead the 19th Infantry Division at the time. So is this destiny, or is it something else? It is, as David Petraeus says, the intersection of preparation and opportunity. So that's where I would start my discussion of Mustafa Kemal's leadership. Shall we go into the questions?
Yes, I'd like to add a few words about destiny, though. In leadership, when we teach leadership, and we talk about the personality of leaders or anybody, we talk about internal and external locus of control. Somebody who has internal locus of control will not believe in destiny and will believe he or she has succeeded or failed because of everything he has done, rather than putting the responsibility externally. An external locus of control is believing in destiny and God, or kısmet, we say in Turkish, opportunity. So here, I'd like to point out you're talking about external locus of control, saying it's destiny. Now, for someone who has internal locus of control, it might be that wherever a person is and whatever the circumstances are, he will still succeed or fail because that is the makeup of the personality of that person. And secondly, when you are kind of climbing to the top, yes, there is competition, and sometimes people are marginalized, and sometimes with the help of people, external sources, they move up the ladder. Or sometimes someone who was up comes down through the competition again. So these are all topics to think about. Okay, let's go on to Gallipoli then.
Okay.
The operational and strategic, everything about the Gallipoli War, which is this book, Command Under Fire. A war where lots of young people died and are still buried at Gallipoli. As I say, of all nations, of many different nations, all the way from the other side of the world. New Zealand and Australia are so far from Turkey. And there were 17, 18, 20-year-old people, young people, who died and are still resting in Turkish soil. So let's talk about the war, this book in particular.
Okay. Did you want to read me the questions that you sent me and then I'll respond, or do you want me just to
The
talk?
first question I had here was the operational, to what extent did command and control at the operational level of war affect the outcome of the Gallipoli campaign?
Okay, so let me start with what is command and control. Command means it's all about the decisions that commanders make to attack, to defend, to not attack, to move. So command is all about how to make decisions. Control means how to execute or how to accomplish those decisions. So in war, there are really two parts to the whole of being successful. Can you make the right decisions? And once you make the decision, do you know how to accomplish it? Can you execute it and get it done? So that's where I would start this discussion. That we also have to understand that there are three levels of war, and from highest to lowest, the strategic level, the national level. This is Enver Pasha and Talat Pasha. The operational level, this is where campaigns are planned. And at Gallipoli, what we're talking about here is Lehman von Sanders, the German commander of the Fifth Army, and his British counterpart, Ian Hamilton, the commander of the Mediterranean Expeditionary Force. The third level and the lowest level is the tactical level. That's on the battlefield. That's fighting in battles in combat. That's where Mustafa Kemal is in the Gallipoli campaign. At the operational level, Lehman von Sanders is a German, and the Ottomans have a German system. The Ottomans have a German system of command and control. The British, Ian Hamilton, have a British system. What's the difference? The German and Ottoman system is much more effective, and we use it today. What is that system comprised of? That system is comprised of letting lower commanders make decisions on their own initiative. So here's how this works. Ian Hamilton has to wait for guidance from London. Lehman von Sanders does not have to wait for guidance from Istanbul. And as this goes down into the tactical level, Ian Hamilton gives explicit instructions. he tells his commanders how to do things. In the Ottoman and German system, Lehman von Sanders doesn't tell commanders how to do things. He assigns them missions. So this is more like modern armies, modern NATO Western armies today. It's much more effective than the British system. The British system is outdated and antiquated. It does not allow commanders the opportunity to take advantage of rapidly changing conditions. So at the end of this campaign, arguably, and the book that Berna has is all about my ideas on this, arguably, the Ottoman system is much more effective than the British system. And this gives the British the wrong lessons learned. They believe that their system works, but it doesn't work very well if German commanders are commanding Turks. So the British position in this is that they're fighting. This is the best possible circumstance for their enemy and the worst for the British. They're fighting German commanders who are commanding Turkish soldiers. So you have German commanders ordering and employing the best soldiers on the planet. So this is a false lesson learned. Back to let me just wind this up quickly with Berna's comments about internal and external circumstances. Mustafa Kemal, he has determination. He has the will to succeed. He's fired from his job in 1913 and sent to Bulgaria. In 1917 in Palestine, he takes command of the 7th Army, but he's fired. He's terminated. Enver Pasha terminates him, fires him, sends him back to Istanbul, where Mustafa Kemal sits for about 6 months.
They were in competition, weren't they? Those two men were in competition.
Yes, they were. Enver Pasha was always ahead of Mustafa Kemal. Enver Pasha was everybody's choice to be the leader. So Mustafa Kemal, there's an English phrase, an also ran. Mustafa Kemal was always the second or third guy of choice. The Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Army moved Enver Pasha up fast into positions where he could take advantage of things. And Mustafa Kemal was always trying to catch up. And finally in 1918, they put him back in charge of the 7th Army, and he saves it in the Syrian withdrawal. In the War of Independence, if I said in December of 1918, if I said in early 1919, hey, look at the guy that's going to save Turkey, the guy that's going to save the Turks is Mustafa Kemal, people would laugh. It's not apparent, even when he lands at Samsun, when he takes the Bandırma steamer and he lands at Samsun on the Black Sea coast to start the War of Independence, to start mobilizing the Turkish nationalists. It's really not clear to anybody at that point that he's going to be able to succeed. But he in his head, as Berna said, he has this internal sense, this determination to succeed, and even when he's marginalized, even when he fails, even when circumstances look impossible to overcome, he keeps on going. He keeps on moving forward until he's successful. So this is really a remarkable.
So you could say he has a lot of resilience, emotional resilience.
Yes.
He's
Go ahead.
He's not pushed back by being marginalized or losing out in competition. The determination is, in a way, resilience. He doesn't give up.
Yeah, he doesn't give up. He's resilient. He can take a hit. He can overcome adversity. It really, resilience is certainly a character trait I would associate with Mustafa Kemal. Okay, shall we go on to the second question?
How did Gallipoli end? What was the how did the war go through so that it ended how it ended?
Yeah, the ending of the campaign. It's important to remember. A campaign is a series of battles and objectives designed to achieve a strategic purpose. The British fight 3 campaigns in a row sequentially. They start in February of 1915, and the first campaign, a breakthrough of the Turkish Straits, ends on the 18th of March, 1915. It fails completely. So the first campaign the British wage fails. A month later, they invade on the 25th of April, 1915. And they invade with amphibious forces. They invade the peninsula. They land at S Beach and V Beach and Anzac Cove. So this is an amphibious campaign. And of course, it also fails. It fails quickly, but they keep on fighting. So they land on the 25th of April, May and June and July go through, and it's obvious to Ian Hamilton, the commander of the British forces, that they have failed. So in late July, the British start to plan a third campaign. The third campaign starts in early August, and it is called the August Breakthrough Campaign. Instead of pushing up the peninsula from Carinthia or Kurt, they will land more forces in Suvla Bay and try to outflank, try to break through the Ottoman position by outflanking them. This results in what the Turks know as the Battle of Anafarta. So coming back to the original question, what about the ending of this campaign? This is 3 campaigns, all of which fail decisively. The third campaign in December of 1915, the British start to withdraw. They recognize failure. There's a point at which you recognize failure and you quit. So that's really what the British finally do. They don't withdraw everybody until January of 1916. But at the end of 10 months, the British have been decisively defeated. You would think they'd learn something. You would think, okay, we were beaten decisively by the Ottoman army. Maybe we can understand those lessons learned and use them somewhere else, like Egypt and Palestine. But the interesting thing to me about the ending of this campaign is that all through 1916, the British learn nothing. They lose the war in Mesopotamia at Kut el Amara. The British army is surrounded and captured. Yeah. In Palestine, in the first Battle of Gaza, the second Battle of Gaza, the British are decisively defeated. They just don't learn from their mistakes. Why is that? Because there is an ethnocentric sense of English superiority. Ian Hamilton, in his memoirs, before the Battle of Gallipoli, he wrote in his diary, "1 British soldier is worth 10 Turks." and that thinking prevails. The British, even after 10 months of being decisively defeated at Gallipoli on the peninsula and in the water, they leave there thinking, well, we made some mistakes, but we're still better. We're still more effective than the Turks. And that's not true. They finally, it is not until the fall, until the Battle of Third Gaza in September of 1917, that the British are actually able to defeat the Ottoman army. So it takes the British, after the battle, after the ending of the campaign, about 18 to 20 months to finally come up with the right tactics, the right weapons, the right leadership models to beat the Turks. Gallipoli was unwinnable. It was never in any of the 3 British campaigns what we call winnable. Could the British have won doing something a little different? Well, the answer is that offensive operations, attacking in World War I, doesn't work for anybody until late 1918. The Schlieffen Plan in 1914, the Tannenberg operation, because of the weapons systems, machine guns, artillery, trenches, barbed wire, attacking just doesn't succeed in the war. You can advance a little bit, but as a general rule, it doesn't operate well. It isn't until 1918 when tactics change and new weapons come along, like tanks. So could any British operation in 1915, early in the war, in the first 6 months of the Ottoman War, have succeeded? The answer is, I don't think so. So this was doomed from the start.
Yes, Somme too, the Battle of Somme in France, Western France. Again, trenches and barbed wire. So many British soldiers died there.
Yeah, losses were actually about equal. About 60,000 Ottoman soldiers are killed, 48,000 British soldiers and Australians and New Zealanders are killed. So a lot of people,
Indians too, I suppose. Indians.
Yes. One of the things I like to focus on when I study this campaign, when I study the Gallipoli, the Çanakkale Savaşı, the Turks remember victory. It's not fair. The Australians and the British and the New Zealanders remember defeat. So the Turks today celebrate the victory. The Australians celebrate defeat on Anzac Day, April 25th.
Yes.
There are 2 opposite approaches to this campaign: victory from the Turks, defeat by the British and the Australians and the New Zealanders. The interesting thing for me is that this does not keep these nations apart. In fact, the Gallipoli campaign brings them together. There has been remarkable reconciliation over this campaign. The Turks don't hate the Australians. The Australians don't hate the Turks. In fact, they enjoy very warm and friendly relations. So the Turks celebrate victory, the Australians celebrate defeat, but when they come together, they celebrate the fact that they reconcile. They celebrate the idea that brave soldiers
Yes.
die in combat, and we should remember their sacrifice. We should not remember the rightness or the wrongness of the cause for
Or
which
who
they
won.
fought.
Not who won, but the young people who lay side by side.
Yes, and they do. You know, the cemeteries are side by side. So
Yeah.
we should remember the sacrifice and the valor, the heroism of the soldiers, and
Right.
not whether they had a good cause or a bad cause, not good or evil, but friendship, and that's a remarkable outcome
Yes.
of
That was my
any.
next question, actually, which I had sent you. So you've gone into that, the social and human impact of the war. So please continue.
Yeah, the human social cultural impact of this war. It's right after the war, the British started to write histories and memoirs. You could buy Ian Hamilton's memoirs in 1920. You could pick up and buy the official history in 1932. So the British remember this quickly. They want it embedded in their social structure. Turkey really doesn't have very many military histories about the war until really the last 20, 30 years. So there is a period in modern Turkish history where the trauma and the horror and the effect on ordinary Turks is removed from Turkish life. All through the 1920s, all through the 1930s, all through the 1940s, British veterans on the 25th of April get together and they have parades and they wear their medals. The Turks don't do this, and the reason is because when you take the Balkan Wars and World War I and the War of Independence, the number of casualties, the number of Turks killed, the destruction in Anatolia. I mean, from Eskişehir and Inanu all the way to Izmir. That whole area is rubble. It's destroyed. So the British don't go through this. There's a few bombs that fall on London, but at the end of World War I, Britain is not destroyed. They've lost almost 1 million people, but they haven't lost very many civilians. The trauma of 3 wars in a row, the First and Second Balkan War, World War I, the War of Independence, taken together, this is a trauma for Turkey that no other country, maybe France, but not to the extent Turkey, has had to go through. So this Atatürk's foreign policy, peace at home, peace in the world. The last thing the Turks wanted to do in 1940, 1941 was to come into World War II. They knew nobody in Europe, except the Turks, quite knew what the consequences of war could be in their homeland. Germany in 1918 was not destroyed. England was not destroyed. Turkey in 1922, the whole western half of the country was a wreck. So the cultural, social, human aspects of not just Gallipoli, but the wars in general traumatized the Turkish public consciousness. And it took them 3 generations, I think, to get out of this. It isn't until after the collapse of the Soviet Union that the Turks start to think about sending their army to other places, like the brigade in Bosnia, like the ISAF in Afghanistan, like the military mission in Somalia. Chevik Bir, goes to Somalia in 1992. So it isn't until after 1991 that the Turks are willing to send their army elsewhere, except for the Korean War. They do send a brigade into Korea in 1951, but really to demonstrate solidarity with NATO, to position themselves to come into NATO. So this is a legacy issue. Is how does war affect a country and its people, and the consequences of the First World War affect Turkey for 3 generations after.
I'm an Izmirli. I come from Izmir. And my grandmother was born and grew up in Izmir. So she lived through the Greek occupation in Izmir. And sometimes she used to tell me stories about the days of the occupation and the fire, etc. So I know very well, maybe not through history books, but through grandparents, both my grandparents. I heard lots of stories. One grandmother from Istanbul, the other from Izmir. Lots of stories about what went on during the First World War and occupation. And the interesting thing about both my grandmothers, I couldn't see my granddads because of the circumstances of those days. By the time I was born, both my granddads had died, but my grandmoms lived to an old age. And what was interesting was they had no animosity about the Greeks or the British who occupied Istanbul, the Greeks who occupied Izmir. They liked the British and the Greeks, even though they had a lot of stories of suffering while both cities were occupied and war was going on. So this is an interesting human, social, and cultural aspect of war, I suppose. People forgive and forget, and a lot of people just don't keep any hatred in their hearts.
Yeah, that's remarkable. And let me extend a tribute to the Turkish people. I don't think that the Turkish people retain anger or hatred toward the Greeks or the Armenians. But I think today, that's not true on the other side of the border. I think that Armenians today have a grudge, maybe not hatred, but really are angry by the loss they suffered in World War I and after. I think the Greeks today, are mistrustful of the Turks, and I think the Turkish side is much more forgiving and much more willing to reconcile. But I don't think that's true with the country of Armenia. I don't think it's true with the country of Greece. But that's remarkable.
Yeah, with Greece, it's, I think, more on a political level among the politicians and people. I have many Greek friends, and I have been to Greece maybe 100 times, driving between the UK and Turkey. I go through Greece and spend a few days each time. That's about twice a year since my teens, let me say. And the people, they have no hatred, most of them, and they're very friendly. And on a personal level, it's very easy to get on with Greeks. we share a lot of cultural aspects, such as songs and food and climate, etc. We share 500 years of history. So I don't think there is a problem. Armenians, I haven't met many. I've just met a few, and some of them had grudges, some of them didn't. But with Greek people, I don't see they hold grudges or hatred. It's just on a political line.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Yeah,
This is my experience. And often I drive through Greece with a Turkish number plated car. And there always, people are very proud to use a few Turkish words when I'm parking, like come, stop, left, right, sort of thing.
Yeah.
In Turkish, gel, git, git, sağ, sol, sort of thing. They're very proud to use the few Turkish words they know. And the same with Turkish people. We're very happy to get on with Greeks. Kardeş, brothers.
Yeah.
But Armenia is to the far side of Turkey, very far from Izmir. And I haven't come across many Armenians, so I can't say. But on a political level, I know there is a lot of attack coming from the Armenians nowadays. Turkey.
Yeah.
Now we're approaching the end of our program. Would you like to add anything else about Atatürk's leadership and Gallipoli in particular, because this is a program about Gallipoli?
Yeah.
And maybe just a few words about the importance of the Straits. Now they are back in discussion with what's happening in Ukraine and Black Sea. The Montreux Agreement is back in discussion. So maybe if you have anything else to add about Atatürk's leadership, which is our topic today, Gallipoli, just one sentence about each, and then the importance of the Straits.
Yeah.
And we'll close up.
Okay. Leadership. There are levels of leadership. So sometimes you can be very effective at a lower level and you get promoted and you're still effective, and you get promoted and you're not. And we've all seen in our societies, in our institutions, people like this, that at a certain level, the leadership ability doesn't work anymore. The remarkable thing about Mustafa Kemal is that at the tactical level, he's a great leader on the battlefield. When you move him up to command an army, like in Palestine or in the War of Independence, he's a very effective leader. And then you move up to national level as the father of Turkey, as the president of the Turkish Republic, transitioning Turkey from a agricultural, peasant, uneducated empire owned by the Ottomans to a modern country. He's also effective. So this is very rare. There are very few leaders in history that we know can operate at the lower level, intermediate level, and a high level. Napoleon was like this. Napoleon Bonaparte is probably the closest equivalent to Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. So leadership for most of us tends to be very narrow. I'm good at the lower level, but I'm terrible at the higher level. For example, he's a multi-dimensional leader. He can lead men on the battlefield. He can plan a campaign. He can come up with a vision to transform the educational system in Turkey and make it a modern country. So this is remarkable. His traits, I won't bore you with his traits because most of you know more about him than I do. He had determination. He had vision. He had presence and persona. He was a little prickly. He did irritate some people. You either liked him or you hated him. I think. I think he was that kind of a guy that you know, if you liked him or you didn't. But that's true of a lot of people. So let's fast forward now into the Ukraine and President Zelensky. Is Zelensky a great man, or are there great events occurring, and he happens to have the opportunity to become a great leader? And I think it's that situation. Zelensky was a comedian on TV.
Yeah.
He never ran any organization. I don't think he was ever in the military. He was never in politics, but he is catapulted. He is thrown into a situation that he's proving to be resilient. He's proving to have a vision. He's proving to have go ahead.
We're approaching the end of our time. So Zelensky is not our topic. And I'm a lecturer of leadership. And we're not talking about political leaders here. We're talking about leadership in quotation marks. Mm-hmm. So let's leave Zelensky to a side.
Okay.
And just finish off with the importance of the Straits.
Yeah.
Because our topic is Gallipoli.
Yeah, let me just conclude and summarize Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. He becomes the father of modern Turkey. The social structure, the educational structure, the legal structure. It's rare that one man, one leader can have such a wide influence on a country. The alphabet, the school system, the historical curriculum, the new legal code, the new foreign policy, peace at home, peace in the world. He affects every aspect. He transforms Turkey because he's such a multi-dimensional visionary leader. He really a remarkable. There's nobody quite like him in the 20th century, whose impact is as important as the impact that Mustafa Kemal Atatürk had on the modern Turkish Republic.
Okay, and the Straits, Gallipoli, Çanakkale, and Istanbul, Boğaz. Would you like to say anything about the importance of the Straits and the Montreux Convention?
Yeah, you know, the 1936, the Montreux Convention has very few conventions in the 20th century have proven to be as durable or as long-lasting as the Montreux Convention, and it has worked. It has stabilized the Black Sea militarily since 1936, and I think President Erdogan has made a good decision to adhere to the Montreux Convention and not letting belligerent ships pass the Straits. I have we don't know when they build the new canal, whether the Montreux Convention will still come into force with the Istanbul Canal, but I hope it does. It works. Yes,
I think so too. Thank you very much, Ed. This has been a fantastic interview. And thank you for all these books you've written. We've learned a lot about them. We knew, but I've learned a lot about military tactics here, military detail, and hope to have another interview in the future.
Okay, Berna, thank you so much for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to talk about things that I love, and I've enjoyed this very much. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.